Depressive anxiety spectrum or the syndrome is the commonest illness worldwide.
It cuts across all ages, all economic groups and all classes.
Can you understand?
Depression is seen in all age groups, but more so in age groups of 15 to 40, which is the most productive years of any individual's life.
This could be me. Or this could be you.
Roughly 1 out of every 3 people in this world would go through a phase of depression at least once during their lifetime.
You motherfucker! This had been going on for weeks. I'd drive to work wanting to jolt everyone on the way. My fuse would blow every minute and a half. I had the good sense, thank God, of not banging into every provocation. My bank balance wouldn't have allowed it. How often I wished I had a truck instead. I felt half awake all the time, as if a part of me was somewhere else. It took me a couple of hours every morning to convince myself to face the day. Everything seemed so pointless. I felt dull, edgy, irritable and nervous, as if I was forgetting something important that I would suddenly wake up to. I was perpetually tense, and then my blasted mind would go into a spin trying to figure out why I felt so tense, and that would rake up all kinds of stuff. There were so many voices in my head, so much of it that I felt rushed and pressured by the quantum of my own thoughts. I wanted time to stop so I could sort all this out. Stop at least till my head cleared. Please, just stop.
Hello? Yeah? 10:30. I thought it was 11 o'clock. Yeah, don't worry about it, I'll be there. I'm on my way, yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, bye.
I'd reach work and wish it were time to leave. Everything in between was an unbearable burden. I knew there wouldn't be a moment to look forward to. My irritation with everything, everyone and with myself would reach summit. I wanted the day to end right then.
Good morning, sir.
Drop dead.
Depression has got many emotional changes. Person having depression feels sad, he feels low. Anxiety is another very common symptom. At the same time, irritability is also a very common symptom among depressed people. They feel frustrated, they feel irritable, they find difficult to handle their day-to-day activities, which makes them irritable.
See, a person begins to feel irritable because he is unable to switch over from one mood to the other, which begins to affect his thinking also. I mean, there are things he wants to do, but he is unable to do, and it doesn't make sense to him.
Everything demanded my attention simultaneously. I just couldn't concentrate. My mind was too restless, scattered and jumbled. Reading was difficult. I had to repeat something several times before it even registered, like there was cotton wool in my head that it had to go through. My body felt like Mike Tyson had done his workout on me after losing the title.
Typically, the depressed person has a feeling of what I would technically call anhedonia. Anhedonia is a lack of pleasure. There's a lack of pleasure, there's a lack of interest in things which were earlier pleasurable. The normal kind of activities which one would tend to associate with normal level of functioning. When the depression starts, all the interest, all the pleasure that was inherent in any such activity starts disappearing.
A person who's depressed loses all energy, whether it's mental or physical energy. So he finds that he cannot think, he cannot concentrate. If he has to perform a job, he is unable to start.
Unfortunately, many times people, even when they are suffering from moderate to severe depression, they do not understand that they are suffering from a medical disorder. They keep on believing that it's just low spirit, it is just a change of circumstances, it is their own fault, it is their weak temperament, or it is their weak will which is causing these symptoms of depression.
I ate with the assistants to avoid my colleagues. At least I did not have to talk to them. I did have to bear the banal jokes though. I looked forward to lunch, but I wouldn't enjoy any of it. I felt hungry but couldn't eat much, like there were butterflies in my stomach. What I did eat, I gobbled, trying to keep pace with the thoughts in my head, too pressured to taste any of the food. I worried about all that had not been done and all that had to be done, and there was so much panic that the simplest of tasks would seem impossible to even begin. I felt unenthusiastic, sluggish and heavy.
Will you link back to it?
Whatever.
This man is like...
Sooner or later, these feelings which are first in the mind begins to affect the body. So there may be an increased nervous energy or there's a depletion of nervous energy. Some may lose their sleep and others sleep all the time. Some people lose weight and others gain weight. Some may be constipated, some may have diarrhea. It begins to affect the heart. Some people may start to feel palpitations, others feel that there is a sinking of the heart. Often, I have a patient who's been referred to me by the orthopedic doctor who sits across me because the patient has chronic back pain or chronic headache or in other parts of the body, but actually there is nothing wrong in the muscles or bones, it is the depression which is causing the pain.
Recent investigations have shown that depression is a medical disorder like many other disorders. When I say medical disorder, I mean that there are definite physiological changes within our body, within our brain, which are responsible for this state of depression. It has been seen that in the brain there are chemicals called neurotransmitters which are secreted, which in fact kind of control most of our emotional as well as physical activities. And there are direct and indirect evidences to show that the level of these neurotransmitters in depression fall down.
More and more we know that our brain is running on certain chemicals and there is a fine balance. These chemicals produce certain electrical impulses which go from one cell to the other, and when it's not enough, it's like a fuse in the electricity. The message comes, but then there is no processing of that. So he feels a state of sadness and he is not sure why it's happening, but basically it's because those electrical impulses are not going right.
Contemplation. Relax, contemplate. A educate your mind to control these controls. Command, contrive, devise, improvise.
Well, this is Tweety, okay, and of course, how can I forget this letter? Now she has taken so much of pain and so much of creativity is all over this letter. This is my...
The shit they talk on FM. I hated it all. The traffic, the noise, the aggression, the air. I could only feel extreme emotions. Somehow the day would be over with no work done. I'd feel dissatisfied and frustrated. Through this I would struggle to chalk out a feasible plan for the next day. Perhaps I'd feel better in the morning, I'd tell myself. But now what? How do I fill this emptiness? A few drinks and I'd blabber like I had verbal diarrhea. Like a moron. And I felt like I was saying the wrong stuff. Not wrong, but not exact either. And then I'd keep defending what I said and feel a greater fool. Everyone seemed self-assured in their work, their lives, and only I had this continuous feeling of unease within. Listening to them talk of their work made me feel like an incompetent idiot. I'd suddenly be awfully restless and bored and miserable, and even chosen company seemed burdensome.
Confusion, trepidation, anxiety, aggravation. My mind prepares to attack. Desolation, resignation, apprehension, desperation. The surface begins to crack.
Everyone else moved on. Only my life was standing still. No, falling behind. I couldn't keep up. I was disappointed with myself. A failure. A total failure. Nothing's going to change. Nothing will improve. It's going to be like this forever. I've probably done something to deserve this misery. Everything is hopeless. Everything.
Keep running, keep running, keep turning, keep turning, keep churning, keep churning, keep burning, keep burning, keep churning, keep turning, keep burning, keep burning, keep burning. Keep running, keep running, keep turning, keep churning, keep churning, keep burning, keep burning, keep churning, keep turning, keep burning, keep burning.
When we look at statistics, especially statistics pertaining to suicide, 90% people who have committed suicide have an underlying depression.
He may have very low opinion for himself. He may have low confidence, drive is low, motivation about daily activities is very low, which gives them a very acute sense of guilt. So, these feelings of guilt, helplessness and hopelessness makes the person feel very worthless about himself, and all these put together propel a person towards suicide.
Suicide may come in the form of a thought, or people may actually do something. Now, it's really important when somebody talks about it to take it seriously.
No, please, I need that. It's my briefcase.
Your dad is looking for you.
Dad? Dad? Dad, wake up! Who's that? Masi? Masi, listen to me. I have to... Please? My action in the simplest way. I had my awareness of them.
Yeah, hurry.
But it's tomorrow. What's this? This isn't accountancy.
Use your mind, your mind.
Shit. Oh, come on.
Yeah, take this. It'll help. Take this.
No, I don't need anything. Huh? Oh, okay, that's good. Oh no! Sorry, Sunny, I didn't mean to.
You have 5 minutes left. Just 5 minutes left.
No, wait, it's my first answer. It's only the first. Please,
Sorry,
just a
time's
minute.
up. Time's up.
Just 1 minute. Let me finish this at least. Just let me finish this one at least.
Check. Yeah, check.
He was quite alright until say a couple of months ago, and suddenly over a period of time he started withdrawing and always was very morose, was always sulking with a very annoyed look on his face, and he wouldn't respond. And then either he'd stay by himself, or he'd just spend all the time sleeping, and come weekends and he waits for the first opportunity to go out. It's strange, it's paradoxical. Either he's shut in his room all the time, or he just doesn't want to stay home. He's out, and when he's out, if I try asking him will he be home for dinner, that's all I want to know, he just doesn't seem to answer. He's never rude, because he's not a rude lad, he's a well brought up child, but he'll pretend that he hasn't heard me, and if I repeat the question he gets irritable, and I don't want to push it. He has a lovely home, he has a mother who loves him to bits, he has a father with whom he's always had an excellent relationship, he's done very well in school, and he did college well, he got a job almost immediately, he hasn't had to face any disappointments.
The one thing which I tell every attendant who comes to my clinic is that depression does not respond to common sense. You cannot tell a guy, hey, come on, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, why don't you get up, go for a walk, go for a jog, why don't you get up, go to office, go to school, why don't you eat your meals properly, why don't you sleep, it's 12 o'clock at night, you're still awake. If depression were to respond to these suggestions, I would say that the depression is non-existent. You have to accept the fact that there is as high a chance of depression going away through your well-meaning exhortations or your advice as there is of a cancer going away.
There are a couple of times that I've told him this is all self-created and stop pitying yourself if that's what you're doing. But immediately after that I have felt a bit bad, because I mean I don't want to scold the child, but what do I do? What else do I do? How else do I get through to him? It's just so frustrating for me, because I'm very close to him, he's very, very dear to me.
It's a very common thing for the family to advise the person that it is nothing, you are not suffering from any disorder, it's just low spirits. So if you make your willpower strong enough, if you improve your temperament, you will certainly can get out of it. It's a medical disorder, and advising him, lecturing him, sermonizing him about getting out of it may put the patient under more strain, that everybody is trying to work for me, everybody is advising me, and I am such wretched person that I am unable to respond, and hence his sense of guilt or sense of helplessness may again worsen.
It cannot be a fault finding exercise, but it's the caregiver's responsibility to help this person seek treatment. What you have to tell this guy is, the person who has depression is, okay, you have a problem, we all have a problem, it's a common sorrow, let's go and seek help.
Why should we treat him? For what? I mean, I have seen no signs of any kind of illness in him. Maybe he's more quiet and withdrawn than sometimes we are, but then everybody goes through a phase like this, and goodness, he's definitely not a mental case or something that I have to take him to a psychiatrist or to even to what you call social counselors. And besides, I've heard that they give them all kinds of drugs and all kinds of medicines or whatever, he definitely is not in a state where he needs to be either subdued or anything. As it is, he's a normal kid. Okay, maybe he's going through some problems, but that doesn't mean that I have to rush him to a doctor.
Violence, I mean, violence is the basic thing which you tend to undergo when you're depressed. Anger with yourself and anger at the world around you, because you feel, I don't know how much blame there is on yourself, how much blame there is on the world.
Half the problem when you feel frustrated, when you feel depressed, half the problem why you can't get out of it is because you can't tell anybody about it. So it's all going on in your mind, and you say, I can't tell anybody I'm depressed because they'll think I'm loony, and you're not. You're just as normal as the other person. So that's also a cycle you fall into, that you feel frustrated with yourself for getting depressed in the first place and not being able to perform. You could have a deadline to meet that you can't because you're just not able to concentrate. And there's no way you can tell anyone that I'm not well suddenly, because there's nothing to show for it.
Freud, who's considered the father of psychiatry, had a very famous theory on aggression and melancholia which is sadness. When there is somebody important to you, he becomes a little bit part of you, which is called introjection of the person. Now when you lose a person or anything, you really feel angry. But the thing is, you cannot get angry at the person that you are really close to. So your anger turns inwards.
So far, no single cause has been able to explain the genesis of depression in all individuals. One particular cause may explain certain number of cases, but not the other number of cases. One is the theory of learned helplessness, where physiologists have seen that when animals are put into cages and are given adverse stimuli in form of electric impulses, they perceive the entire environment as threatening and they learn to be helpless. They become kind of immobile, they would not react to the environment. It has been seen that people also kind of learn to be helpless whenever they are confronted with prolonged adverse situations, prolonged stresses, and they kind of behave as if they are totally helpless, and hence they suffer from depression. Learned helplessness also leads to entrapment, the feeling of entrapment in which a person feels that he is totally surrounded, has been made totally helpless, and this feeling again propels this person for depressive feelings.
Let's look at why depression takes place. There are genetic factors, there are personality factors which are intrinsic to a person. The personality also is shaped to a very large extent by your genes. Then there are developmental factors, the kind of environment that you were exposed to in your early years. Then the stress of everyday living, the changes in lifestyle, the absence of a balanced diet, very, very importantly, the deterioration of the social fabric. I would say that like any other illness, it's very, very important to catch depression in time. I mean, if you have a heart problem, you wait for 2 years, you'll probably have a heart attack and you will die. If you have a hypertension, it's not controlled, you'll probably have a stroke and you'll be paralyzed for the rest of your life. Depression is a non-life threatening illness. So you can go through life, you can continue compromising the quality of your life throughout the rest of your life. If you do not rise and shine and say, okay boss, I have a problem, I need help. In my experience, the best results in depression are obtained with a combination of pharmacotherapy and psychotherapy. Pharmacotherapy is the use of medicines. Psychotherapy is the use of non-medicinal techniques to bring about a change in the person's thinking pattern and in the person's behavioral styles. So when we talk about psychotherapy, for instance, we have a very scientific and structured form of psychotherapy for depression called cognitive therapy, which helps you to recognize your negative thought patterns, helps you to identify responses which are more rational, more positive, and then finally how to replace these negative by the positive thought patterns.
You may need medication for a long time, but until you realize that it's not only medicine, it is yourself, it's your motivation to help yourself, then only will you come out of it. Will you be able to perform your normal duties? Otherwise you'll stay somewhere in between.
I finally went to a shrink. My family doesn't even know. It's been 4 months of counseling and medication. Every time I feel bored or pointless, I ask myself, what if this day turns out to be very different from how I think it'll be? That always helps.
I keep telling myself that this life is a gift. And every day I tell myself to look at the beauty of life. I do. Every morning I get up and I look at the plants that I water every day and I tell them, look at life. It's brimming, the whole world is brimming with life. Because I know when I'm depressed, as long as somewhere in my subconscious I've really built in the beauty of life inside myself, I'm not going to look at life and say I'm going to end it so easily.
It's made me a much more analytical person and definitely much more compassionate. Because I find it difficult to deal with extreme emotions. I would rather not have other people deal with such extreme emotions, especially if they're emanating from me. So I would like to protect them from those emotions. The biggest favor that you can do to yourself, the biggest favor that you can do to this friend, this relative of yours is to seek treatment at the earliest. I mean, your quality of life is in your hands. I see no reason why it should be compromised at any cost.